Welcome to another episode of Markets Dawn Europe, an audio podcast on financial markets for European-based professionals. A minimalistic solution to the information overload in mainstream and social media. This is what you need to know today. Morning. Rising tensions in the Middle East are the main driver of sentiment this week, as equity indices in the US and Europe drop from their record highs. Israel renewed its offensive last night against Hezbollah, with massive airstrikes in Beirut, as G7 nations warn of an uncontrolled escalation of the conflict. Biden said the White House was discussing how to advise Israel to respond to Iran's missile attack, and whether oil infrastructure should be a target. Washington and EU officials recognized their limited influence in Tel Aviv's decisions to act, with Biden clarifying that the US has no veto on Israel's actions. Crude oil jumped more than 5% yesterday, its biggest daily rally in a year, to accumulate a 9% gain in the past week, with Brent now dealing at $77.50. Iran exports 1.8 million barrels per day, while OPEC's spare capacity exceeds 5 million, which could cushion the impact should Iran stop supplying. Stocks on Wall Street ended marginally lower last night ahead of today's non-farm payrolls report. The US services PMI accelerated to an 18-month high, significantly better than expected. The East Coast port workers' strike finished after negotiating a wage increase. In Europe, equity indices fell 1% on average yesterday, with France and Spain as the weakest markets in the past week, with declines exceeding 3%. The energy sector outperformed on both sides of the Atlantic, driven by higher oil prices. Asian markets are trading mixed today, with stocks in Hong Kong gaining almost 2%, Japan and Korea adding around 0.5%, while Australia and Taiwan are a touch weaker. European and US futures are flat this morning, while Bund futures are spot 2% lower. On the earnings front, Tesco, Britain's biggest supermarket group, reported solid first-half figures, with a pre-tax profit of £1.4 billion, up 10% year-on-year, and raised its full-year profit forecast. Shares advanced 2.5% and accumulated a 25% gain this year. In forex markets, the notable mover was sterling's 1% fall against the dollar and the euro, on the back of dovish remarks by Bank of England Governor Bailey, who said the central bank could be more aggressive on rate cuts if inflation pressures continue to weaken. Cable is trading at 131.20, the lowest level in 3 weeks. Futures are implying a 96% probability of a 25 basis point rate cut on November 7th to 4.75%. The next inflation update will be on October 16th. The gilts yield curve was the only developed curve to shift lower on Thursday, with 2-year gilts now yielding below 4%. In data, Eurozone producer prices fell 2.3% year-on-year in August, versus a 2.2% decrease a month earlier. Swiss retail inflation came in at spot 8% in September, lower than in August. In corporate deals, Danish logistics group DSV is raising €5 billion by issuing new shares to help finance its acquisition of Schenker, the logistics arm of Deutsche Bahn. Romania's central bank is the only one holding a policy meeting today, with rates expected to remain steady at 6.5%. Today's key data release will be the US employment report for September, with the analysts' estimate for non-farm payrolls at plus 140,000 and average earnings at 1:30 London time. Also, we'll get Italian retail sales. There are no blue-chip companies scheduled to report results today. It's a holiday in China. That's all for this week. Thanks for your time and enjoy your weekend. Visit laconicbriefs.com to subscribe to our newsletter, including this audio podcast with an extended script if you prefer to read, plus performance tables and charts, all in one place. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, Monday to Friday.